said that, would the clerk please call the roll?
Michael Yurden.
Present.
Herbert Yurden.
Present.
Edward Gilson.
Here.
David Holst, and Mark Hughes. Roy Rehill.
Here.
John Martino.
Here.
Frank Lombardo.
Here.
Paul House.
Here.
James Weatherup.
Here.
Mary Ellen Chesbrough.
Here.
Linda Lockwood. Here. Richard Klein.
Present.
Patrick Twist.
Here.
Stephen Walpole and Mark Excuse. Kevin Hill.
Here.
James Scanlon.
Here.
Charles Berger.
Here.
Robert Wilmot and Mark Excuse. Marie Schad.
Here.
Paul Conley.
Here.
Noel Samuelson. Here. James Tarasik and Mark Excuse. Mike Soloway.
Here.
Mark Greco.
Here.
Frank Castilia.
Wouldn't miss it.
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 present and 4 excused. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please lead us in unification?
Please let us be thankful for the opportunity to come together here today to serve in the role of government, for the chance to be of service and make our communities a better place to live for our constituents, friends, and family. Help us to remember that we all wish for a healthier, happier, more prosperous tomorrow, and that the debates we enter are only to decide which road to take. Grant us clarity of purpose and protect us from all distractions and keep us cool tonight.
Now, pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Trust we've seen the minutes from the regular legislature meeting on May 9th and the special meeting on May 30th. So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving now to proclamations. We had some Envirothon winners. Could I have the EDP committee? Eric Shiner, Jack Delconte, Ian McKenzie, Elliot Newell, Aaron O'Brien, Michael Pastella, and Julia Kinsey. Please come forward.
I should have worn my shirt. I had one of those.
Can I have everybody sit down and have a second this way? There we go. Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. On the count of proclamations, we
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And a second. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you very much.
I love June because they have some great proclamations. The first one because it's education and the kids and science. I love this. So, whereas a community is created by the hearts of its citizens, sustained by those dedicated to its prosperity, and inspired by the special heroes of everyday life. Whereas the Oswego High School competed in the 32nd annual Oswego County and Fire Farm and Oswego County Nature Park and Camp Zerby, town of Williamstown, on May 2nd, 2024, placing first in overall performance out of 7 county teams. Whereas the Oswego High School competed in New York State and Fire-a-thon on May 22nd and 23rd in the State University of New York at Portland, New York, placing 10th out of 41 teams. Yeah, very good. Whereas the Fire-a-thon, coordinated by the Oswego County Soil and Water Conservation District, is a hands-on outdoor environmental education competition, and it tests the knowledge of students in subject areas of aquatics, current environmental issues, forestry, soil, land use, and wildlife. Whereas the Oswego team was made up of Jack Delconte, Ian McKenzie, Elliot Newell, Aaron O'Brien, Michael Pastella, and guided by advisor Julia Kinsey. And whereas such an example of dedication and commitment to our environment is so inspiring, and it should be to all of us, and deserve our proud attention and community recognition. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, James Weatherup, Chairman of the Oswego County Legislature, on behalf of the entire legislature and the people of Oswego, do hereby recognize Oswego High School and commend each student, team advisor, and families of their efforts, guidance, and support to bring this useful inspiration to our grateful community. Thank you, guys. Great job.
I would just like to note that this achievement that they have accomplished is in addition to their normal workload in the school. This is an extracurricular environmental education competition, and we thank you for representing Oswego County in fine tradition, first at the local level and 10th at the New York State Environthon. Thank you very much and congratulations.
I'm really proud of this crew. They worked really hard all school year. They started in the summer last year. They actually started the minute the state competition ended last year. They were focused on it, and so they really, really worked hard. They should be proud of themselves.
Great future right here. Great future. Good job. Thank you.
Paul, you guys stay. Ed? You guys stay.
Could I have the EDP committee return to the front?
We are again.
At this time, I'd like to proclaim that this is Dairy Month. I have Paul Forestier come forward, and I promised him that I would mention there is milk and cheese back there, and you're more than welcome to take some before it curdles. It's an urgent situation.
Everybody ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. And a second. 1, 2, 3. Got it. Thank you.
Remember what I said that June is my favorite month because of the children and the students and science and everything. Well, there's a second part, and that is Dairy Month. I was a dairy farmer, milk cows for 20 years. So this is very special to me because to me milk is the nectar of the gods. Okay, whereas June is the month when nature bestows upon us their most nearly perfect weather. A little warm maybe, but. And so it follows that June is also the most fitting month to celebrate milk, nature's most perfect food. And whereas the wide and varied agriculture of New York State directly and indirectly employs almost 500,000 people, with dairy farming ranking first in agricultural income. Whereas the dairy industry in Oswego County is a significant contributor to our 94,000 acres of agricultural land, with a market value of land, buildings, equipment, and cattle worth $190.5 million. And whereas June is traditionally identified with the delicious idea of eating refreshing and nutritious dairy foods. And I have to comment that my daughter is a Spartan racer, and at every one of those Spartan races, at the end of it, chocolate milk. Not just water, but chocolate milk, because it helps with muscle, and it helps with bones, and it's very important. That was my only little that in there, sorry. And now, therefore, I, James Weatherup, as chairman of the Oswego County Legislature, on behalf of the whole legislature and all of the citizens of Oswego County, we declare June 2024 as Dairy Month in Oswego County, and propose a salute to milk, the beverage that has helped our children grow taller, our adults become more vigorous, and our senior citizens who enjoy the longest and most productive lives in the history of the world. Would you like to say a few words?
So every year we do this to call attention to June is Dairy Month. This This year, we have cheese from Buttercup Cheese Company in Central Square, and the milk came from Hudson's Dairy. So everything has been sourced locally for you, so you can enjoy it, and we encourage you to go and enjoy yourself. Just so people know, farming in general is not an easy lifestyle, but dairy farmers are some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. What they go through to give us milk and cheese and ice cream is absolutely unbelievable. And we need to thank them whenever we get an opportunity to do so. So thanks for this recognition. We appreciate it. And seriously, please enjoy yourself. We have more in the refrigerator. So we want to put it all out because it's kind of hot.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank Paul Forestier. That was the shortest speech in my 12 years here. Thank you for
Now,
that.
he just said the same thing. We work together.
Introduction to visitors. I would have liked to introduce Judge Del Conte, whose son just won an award. Every summer we seem to give a Del Conte an award. But very good job. I don't see any other necessarily visitors. Mr. Haas, any public speakers on resolutions of the day?
Mr. Chairman, there are none.
Thank you, sir. Reports of county officials. Report of standing committees. Oh, yeah, this guy. All right, Al. While Phil's getting this ready, what he's going to speak on is he traveled to Washington last week and has pretty exciting news about the lake out here. We've been chasing this around for months. Years? Several years. We've actually been, I don't want to take his whole thunder, but it's about the marine sanctuary out of the lake. Better hurry, Phil, I ain't got much more.
Now we're back to dairy month.
Now would be a good time to get another chocolate milk over there. There we go. All right, sorry about that.
Good evening. Sorry for the delay. By now, you've probably heard last week's good news that our efforts to lead a nomination to make southeastern Lake Ontario a national marine sanctuary was successful. And realizing that this was started 10 years ago and that there are currently only 10 legislators still here from the original group that helped initiate this, I asked the chairman for a few minutes to do a quick recap and, more importantly, go over what's going to come next. Most people are familiar with the national park system like Yellowstone and Yosemite and the worldwide status as extraordinary places they have. National marine sanctuaries are America's underwater version of such parks, and they're administered by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. There are very few of them, and that underscores how unique and important they are to the nation. Some are based on distinctive environmental factors, Others are based on heritage and the unique and important place they play in America's history. In 2015, Oswego, Wayne, Cayuga, and Jefferson counties and city of Oswego, with the support of the state and a lot of organizations along the lake, decided to nominate our quarter of Lake Ontario to become a heritage-based sanctuary. And that would be based on the historic nature of over 40 shipwrecks off our shores, the lake's relationship to indigenous peoples, the role our community's maritime heritage played in the colonial period, military conflicts, and America's westward expansion. We did this in order to create opportunities for economic growth through tourism and research investment, expand educational and career opportunities for youth, conserve our local history, and promote our area internationally. The designation will not place any new restrictions on fishing or diving or other recreational or commercial uses of the lake, and nor will it put any restrictions on shoreline property owners. It's an approach that combines conservation, education, and research with economic development and public access. The nomination was developed over 2 years and submitted in 2017. NOAA accepted it and started the designation process in 2019. That process included vetting through public meetings, research, various federal agency procedures. NOAA formed an advisory council of 30 citizens from the 4 counties, and they helped them develop the priorities, the management plans, and policies to ensure that our local intent was maintained throughout the process. The city and the counties and state governments also all had seats on that council. Because I had chaired the nomination task force, NOAA invited me to go to Washington, D.C. last week to represent the local governments and participate in the official ceremony announcing Lake Ontario National Marine Sanctuary. That's why I wasn't at any of your committee meetings last week. And this is where I owe you all an apology, because I've always prided myself on keeping you all informed, but I was not allowed to tell anybody. I told the chairman I felt I needed to do that, but this was to be a federal announcement. It was made at Capitol Hill Ocean Week, which is a national annual conference, an international conference held by the National Marine Sanctuary Foundation. The event was held here at the Ronald Reagan Building, the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center on June 5th. It was attended by over 2,500 people, 1,000 in person, 1,500 virtually from all over the planet. Attendees included congressional staff, federal agencies, organizations, civic organizations from around the world, and interested citizens from around the world. Through remarks and a beautiful video that they had made, which you just saw without the music, the announcement was made by NOAA Administrator Richard Spinrad, Deputy Secretary of Commerce Don Graves, Deputy Commissioner of State Historic Preservation Dan McKay, representing Governor Hochul, and myself. You have a packet on your desk that gives a summary of all this, but in there is a link address. If you want to see that ceremony, it is on YouTube, and that link address is there for you to go take a look. So Washington, D.C. had its party, and now it's our turn. NOAA is reserving Cahill Pier in the city of Oswego for a local ceremony and celebration on Friday, September 6th at 11. It's not just a ceremony, but it's also going to include attractions and events. Please keep an eye out in your emails. Every one of you is going to be invited to that, as will your counterparts in the other 4 counties. So what does this mean for our region, and what's going to happen next? NOAA will be recruiting a superintendent and other staff and securing offices here to begin developing local programming. Then they will likely conduct a facility study to locate and design a more permanent base of operations here. Plans are underway to place safe mooring buoys on shipwrecks to provide safe access for the public to them. A new advisory council will be recruited to maintain local input into the sanctuary's management and programming. Local governments will continue to have a voice on that council as well. Already, NOAA has developed lesson plans that meet New York State standards to use in our grade schools, using shipwrecks as an exciting way to teach math, science, history, and ecology. They've also created virtual reality experiences for the non-divers. You can wear the guy. I actually tried this at the event last week. You put the goggles on, and you're totally immersed 360 in the experience of diving one of our local shipwrecks. And I'm told they're going to bring that to the event in September for all of you to try if you'd like. And that can be used in museums and classrooms as part of instruction in classroom, but also as an attraction in our local museums and other venues. A program is being developed that introduces marine technology to our local students by having them build remote underwater vehicles and competing between schools with them. SUNY Oswego is already establishing a Great Lakes Institute on their campus. The sanctuary will be co-managed by NOAA and the state of New York, but working with them, the sanctuary will be what we make of it. It's analogous to this. In 1980, New York State built the Salmon River Fish Hatchery to restock the lake and improve its ecology. We could have just let that be a hatchery and a DEC program. But instead, this county seized on the opportunity and used it to foster the growth of what has become one of North America's premier sport fishing areas and destinations. And then that sparked the rest of our tourism industry as well. We've been given the same opportunity again, one that reaches beyond tourism and into education and career training. The University of Michigan last year conducted a study in Alpena, which is the location of Thunder Bay Sanctuary, the first freshwater sanctuary in the Great Lakes, and recommended that they pursue a marine technology industry cluster. Not to be the competitive new kid on the block, but I think with Micron coming here, that's an idea that maybe we should pursue with our own IDA and the other IDAs of the other 4 counties, and to pursue recruitment of marine technology industries here. It would dovetail well with the world's biggest chip manufacturer coming to our borders. Sometimes we don't see our hometowns the way other people do. We take them for granted. We drive by the lake every day coming to work. Maybe we go to Rudy's for a fish. It's just there in our daily activities, and we don't necessarily think of it. But others see our region differently, and this designation proves it. It's important to understand there are only 16 of these in the world. And if you look at this map, with this designation, southeastern Lake Ontario has been placed in the same company of extraordinary places as the Florida Keys and the Hawaiian Islands and the Olympic coast. And that is how the rest of the world is going to think of us from now on. Let's take advantage of that. Governments and our local businesses have something new and exciting to add to our brand and our identity now. Something that can help us attract new visitors, new residents, and new economic opportunities. And lastly, I want to commend this legislative body for continuing to support this project over a decade. If you think about it, it's not just 10 years of work. It's called political commitment, has crossed 5 of your elections, 3 chairmen, 2 governors, 2 presidents, and a pandemic. If you think about it, a lot could have gone wrong here. It could have gone wrong in the other 3 counties or in the state, federal government, but it didn't. And today is the result, and because of that, we now have all these opportunities before us. So thank you all.
Thank you. It is very good news. Legislator Gilson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we make a motion to move special committee reports to the end of our agenda tonight.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to the Government Courts and Consumer Affairs Committee, by Legislator Yurden, Michael Yurden. We have a number of resolutions. Legislature got together earlier in the interest of trying to get you out of here a little quicker. We're going to move some of these as a block. Legislator Yurden.
I propose making a block of number 1, resolution 1, 9, 10, and 11 as a block.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, 4 excused, to move
Okay, so then,
GC 9, 1, 9, 10, 11 as block.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is 12 on the agenda?
That's
Don't have to walk.
that's going to be at the end.
Can we approve it as the,
What is it? Well, we only listed 1, 9, 10, and 11.
We're gonna wait to do
Those are
it.
the only ones.
I thought you said 12.
No, 11 is the last one.
Thank you.
All right, so, under Resolution GC2, this appoints Rachel Dater as the assigned council plan administrator. And we're happy to announce that promotion of Rachel to the assigned council plan administrator. Prior to Sarah Davis's retirement, Rachel worked with Sarah for 4 years as a support attorney, and Rachel will continue to be an asset to this department. Resolution GC2 by Legislator Yurden.
I offer resolution DC2. I request your, my support, and I request your support also.
Thank you. Would the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution appointing assigned council plan administrator for the county of Oswego.
Right, so as I've stated and others, this is to appoint Rachel, who was in attendance today, as an administrator. So, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, 4 excused.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Moving now to Resolution GC3 by Legislator Michael Yurden.
I offer this resolution and urge your adoption.
Would the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the creation of 1 part-time information operations coordinator position.
Thank you. Legislator Twist? Is this something that you would like to speak on?
Yes, sir. So I recently became the chairman of the CSI committee, and in the discussions that we had, it became very evident that we needed an employee kind of steering the ship, if you will. We have money available that needs to be spent. We have a timeline that we need to follow in order to spend that money. And we also have a timeline we need to follow in order to get future money to be able to help public safety and community safety within our community and county as a whole. So this became a necessity. The whole committee also agreed that this is something we had to do. So that's what this is about. And we're choosing Mr. Trudell, former legislator Trudell, to run a lot of the day-to-day that needs to be done in order to steer the ship. He's overly qualified, and he's been steering the ship already without getting paid. And this will be able to get, we're going to pay him, but it's also going to, he can now spend a little bit more time, and we'll be able to hopefully get some work done to keep our schools and everybody safe. So.
Thank you. And as I understand, this is fully funded by the grant?
That is correct, fully funded by the grant, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And now he's on the payroll, so I can pound him even more. So, looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Legislator Shaw.
I'm just fiscally concerned. Will this automatically go away at the end of funding, or do we take it out?
If the legislature does their job, yes.
I believe there's a clause in the resolution that says that if the funding is gone, the position's gone.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Legislator Greco.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out that Mr. Trudell was instrumental in the police reform plan as well as the domestic violence plan. So, done a great deal of work with the CSI community, and I urge everybody to support this.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Resolution GC4 by legislator Michael Yurden.
I offer this resolution and urge your adoption.
Would the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the addition of 2 new attorney positions in Public Defender's Office.
Yes, thank you. This is pretty much A that reads, these are approved positions. We did have discussions with F&P earlier, and these are approved and reimbursable from the ILS system. So, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 20 in favor, 1 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Resolution GC5 by legislator Michael Yurden.
I offer this resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the addition of 1 new senior attorney position in Public Defender's Office.
Yes, again, much like the last resolution, this is funded by ILS, and previously approved through F&P. Any discussion? Thought you were getting on. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 20 in favor, 1 opposed, and 4 excused.
All right, thank you. Moving to the Public Safety Committee, Resolution PS1 by legislator Greco.
Mr. Chairman, I offer this resolution and recommend its approval.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing capital project E911, advanced 911 public safety.
All right, first and foremost, this will need to be amended at the advice of the county administrator. The funding should come from the technology fund rather than unappropriated fund. So get an amendment for that.
Make a motion, we amend it?
Motion to amend, second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, it's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Back to the original, I'd like to point out that this has been, I wouldn't say long awaited, but we've been working on this project for quite a while. I want to thank our 911 director, Kevin Bowie, along with all the other people in the CSI committee. This capital project will allow us to map every school in the county, every county building. It will give access, 911 will have access to all the cameras, and we'll be able to instantly notify those persons in charge of that facility when an anomaly occurs through artificial intelligence.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, it's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Mr. Chairman, as previously agreed, I would like to move PS 2 through 5 as a block.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, it's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused to move as a block 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Thank you. Moving to the Human Services Committee, Resolution HS1 by legislator Rehal.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Social Services, salaries and wages to Food Bank Central New York supplies and expenses.
Mr. Chairman, DSS is contracted with the Food Bank of Central New York for many years, and the contract amount has remained the same. Due to inflation of wages, expenses, and food costs, DSS is seeking to provide the actual costs over and above the contract for their outreach activities by the food bank. The total contract is $82,740. The gap is $20,175. Therefore, the resolution seeks to increase the supplies and expenses line by $20,175 and decrease a salaries and wages line by the same amount. It's budget neutral for 2024.
Thank you. Any discussion? Legislator Castillo.
Mr. Chairman, my question is on 1, 2, and 4, in that what is the, right now, the vacancies that we have throughout the whole DSS department? Because we're taking money out of salaries and wages on all 3 of these, and I just want to know what we have for vacancies, because, at some point in time, hopefully we'll fill them, but, I'd just like to know what we have for vacancies. How many do we have vacant?
We're constantly working to fill them, and the overall vacancy rate as of 5/31 is 11.9%, down from 12.7% in April. There are 10 caseworker vacancies, 4 caseworker vacancies in a separate department, 4 senior typist vacancies, 3 full-time and 1 part-time typist vacancy, 13 social welfare examiner vacancies, 1 support examiner vacancy, and 2 employment specialist vacancies. So that total percentage is 11.9%.
It's almost, that's 30, 34, 35 vacancies. Right? So that would come up with real quick.
Pardon me?
It comes up to about 34 vacancies. Right?
If you did the math, I'll trust-
30,
I'll trust your math.
35, yeah, 35. I mean, it's just, I know we've been pushing for, to fill the vacancies out there, and I'd like to see them filled so that people don't have to overwork. But I want to know when we're going to come up with the money we fill them. But we'll have to deal with that next year, if that happens. I understand that. I'm not against these, I'm just asking the question. That's all I'm
It's quite difficult
Thank you.
work. It shows here that just during that same month, we had hired 6 but lost 3. So sometimes you hire people, and the job is a little bit more difficult than they can be.
Thanks for
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Legislator Castillo, or was your questions answered for 1 through 4?
Yes, so you can go 1, 2, 4, you can put them all together now. So,
Legislator Rita, if you'd like to move the rest of the block.
like the blocks, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that. Like all of them.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, then I'm offering to move in a block, HS 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused to move the block.
Looks like I left 4 out of there.
Yeah, you did. It's okay, all right. I got it.
Mr. Chairman, I offer resolution 4 or just adoption. I guess we'll have to read that.
We'd either have to amend or you go back and do it. So
No, we're going to just do it just because I left it out of the block. So
Resolution HS 4, Legislator Rita.
I'll second it.
Resolution authorizing budgetary modification, Department of Social Services, salary and wages to other fees and services.
this has to do with the Northwood system and changing their fees. $38,140 for support services.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you.
Sorry to stretch things out.
That's
We sped up at the end. Legislator Chesbro.
What money
No,
is it?
HS 8.
Oh,
See, all this, doing this stuff on the fly when it's this hot, it's hard.
all right.
it.
Yep. Yes. Resolution HS 8 by Legislator Rita.
Mr. Chairman, I offer HS 8, urges adoption.
Would the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution appointing acting commissioner of social services.
And we have to amend this resolution. This is to appoint our deputy commissioner, Marty Babcock, to become the acting commissioner of social services at the end of the month at Stacy Alvord's retirement. The amendment would be to replace the words that say on HS8 that it is at step 14 to step 15 and the amount to $115,052.
I'd make a motion to accept the amendment.
Thanks,
I'll
Secretary.
second.
Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused on the amendment.
Back to the original resolution as amended. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Thank you. Legislator Chesbro.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
I believe we have a motion to move as a block, but you also have some comments you'd like to make.
Yes, I would like to first start to make a motion to move EP1 through EP6 as a block.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused to move EP 1 through 6.
Yes. My comment is that out of those 6, 4 of them have to do with our workforce development director, Rachel Pierce, who has been bringing funds to the county through several different areas, specifically that she went with a grant to the Empire State Development Agency, along with Brian Heffron at PTEC, was able to get $750,000. And along with what the county, we agreed to do a few months ago and give the PTEC $500,000. This puts them over the thing, so they now have their hands on manufacturing lab for these kids up there to even reach higher goals. As we know, some of those kids have already been hired by Micron to start training in IFO. So this is a hugely successful thing, and I just wanted to say that this is a great job that our directors are doing.
Thank you. She is very hard working. Yes. Any discussion? Oh, we already moved it.
Yeah, we did.
All right. Well, we still have discussion.
Get program.
Needs to get here. Moving now to the Health Committee, Legislator Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to move HE 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as a block.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused to move EP 1 through 6 as a block.
Thank you. Now moving to the Infrastructure, Facilities, and Technology Committee, Legislator House.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to move 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 as a block. And we're going to pull number 4 to for more information back to committee.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Second. Motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused to move IT 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 as a block and pull.
Thank you. Moving now to Finance and Personnel Committee, Legislator Martino, FP1.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have this resolution of emergency adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution adopting amended hazard communication program policy.
This is basically to update the the data sheets, the OSHA sheets, and so forth that need to be brought into compliance for the day around the county.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Legislator Martino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I offer I make a motion to table FP2 as the bargaining unit has not voted on it as of yet. So I make a motion to table that.
Second. Okay, a motion to table. Any discussion?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused to table.
Thank you. Any unfinished business? Or miscellaneous business? Legislator House.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to waive the rules for resolution GC 12, 13, and 14, and HS 9 only.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Marie, you got those? Marie,
I did not.
I don't, you don't have those. They weren't on our desk here.
You don't have those?
I gave them.
Well, quite honestly, that might be my fault.
That's enough right there. I got it, sir.
I'm in the speed reading.
Speed read for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, while you're digesting it a little bit, the first two are just to set the date of the hearing.
Okay.
Next month.
Give us the Reader's Digest version.
And then 14 is authorizing the execution of settlement. So we'll get right into them. That's pretty standard. Resolution GC 12 by Legislator Michael Yurt.
I offer this resolution and urge your adoption.
Would the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution fixing time and place for a public hearing relative to a proposed tax agreement under real property tax law 485 and 490 regarding the James A. Fitzpatrick Clean Energy Center, a nuclear-powered electric generating facility.
Thank you. There's a couple of items that still will be needed to be addressed as we go, but this just sets the date for the hearing. So, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Resolution GC 13 by legislator Michael Yurch.
I offer this resolution and urge your adoption.
Would the clerk please read the heading?
A resolution fixing time and place for a public hearing relative to proposed County of Oswego Local Law Number 6 of the year 2025 or 24, entitled A Local Law Granting an Exemption from General Ad Valorem Taxation, Special Ad Valorem levies, and special assessments as provided for under Real Property Tax Law 485 and 490 regarding the James A. Fitzpatrick Clean Energy Center, a nuclear-powered electric generating facility.
Thank you. That was a long. But this again just sets the date for that hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Resolution GC 14 by legislator Michael Yurch.
I offer this resolution and urge your adoption.
Would the clerk please read the heading?
Resolution authorizing the execution of settlement certifications in the matter of the State of New York et al. Versus Jewel Labs, Inc. et al. Supreme Court, County of New York, Index Number 452168/2019.
Thank you. I'm going to have the county attorney speak to this. This just came in recently.
Last week, the county was notified that the allocation to the county is ready to be dispersed by the state attorney general. The state of New York and others sued Juul, which manufactures e-cigarettes and vaping products, and reached a settlement. The county's settlement over several years is expected to be $582,809.54. This authorizes the county administrator as designee to fill out the certifications and request the first 2 disbursements. This will be done annually thereafter. There are limitations on what the county can use the monies for, preventing youth and young adults from initiating vaping, supporting community, school, college, and university-based anti-vaping programs, helping people quit vaping, enforcing vaping laws and regulations, and researching surveillance. So each year, the county will have to certify how the allocations were spent under the settlement.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Resolution HS9 by legislator Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I offer the following resolution and urge its adoption.
Will the clerk please read the heading?
A resolution establishing capital project number 1324, Camp Hollis Pool Maintenance and Repair.
Well, they filled the pool up, it's 50 years old, and it didn't hold water. So apparently there's a skim coat of some sort that needs to be replaced, and the estimation is that we're going to have to set aside $43,000 of ARPA money in order to do that. It's a company that is from out of state because it's some sort of kind of a specialty thing to do. This is and something that apparently we can get done quickly because they're going to combine, the outfit that's going to come and do it can combine it with another job. So that's that. That's what I have.
Thank you. The thought being that if we didn't move quickly, kids might not be able to swim this summer. And a day like today, I'm sure they'd like to swim. Any discussion? Legislator of the city.
I was looking at the budget, but it's not signed by anybody.
We'll sign it. It was new today. I'll sign it. It'll go around to the committee chair.
Yeah, well, it's just, technicality, that's all.
That's good catch, sir. Anyway, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, that's 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and 4 excused.
Thank you. Now I look for the appropriate motion. Legislator Gilson.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, at this time,
We'll wait. Got a motion to adjourn.
special committee.
prior to having this on the record.
All right, good catch. Special committee.
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to introduce to the legislature, Mr. Scott Eisman, PLC, who is going to summarize his investigation of Oswego County's response and handling and the circumstances leading to the New York State Office of Children and Family Services Child Fatality Report SY 21020.
Thank you. Mr. Eisman?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. My name is Scott Eisman, and I'm here to provide a summary of the report that I was instructed to complete regarding the child fatality report.
Can you hit the mic?
Can't hear you.
Is it working? Is that better?
Yes.
Sometimes my height is a deficit when it comes to microphones. So as Mr. Gilson indicated, I'm here to provide a summary, but principally to answer questions regarding the investigative report that I was hired to complete into the circumstances and handling leading to the New York State Office of Children and Family Services Child Fatality Report numbered SY 21020. What I would like to do, because I wanted to offer ample time for questions so I can answer them to the extent that I'm able to, is to provide a brief summary of my process and then highlight several of the findings of the report, not all of them, but a few of them, and then open the floor for questions, and again, be able to answer them as best I can. The way that I went about this investigation was to first conduct a very detailed review of the documentary information that was available. That was done by looking at the DSS internal records related to and underlying this fatality report internally, the internal DSS records, as well as law enforcement's investigation into this fatality, the trial record and exhibits and evidence that was offered to the jury to consider in the criminal prosecutions that were related to this fatality report. And then there were several other investigative steps that followed by OCFS, the Office for Children and Family Services, that resulted in a program review of the county's DSS program, as well as what's called a program improvement plan, or PIP. I reviewed those materials as well. And finally, I conducted several interviews of senior DSS employees, supervisors, and CPS employees and supervisors, as well as I spoke with and interviewed the leadership of the Mexico School District and various stakeholders within the Mexico School District. Once I had collected all that information, I applied that information to the regulatory and legal framework that exists, that DSS operates in. What are they obligated to do under the law? What are they authorized to do under the law? And what should they do when they receive hotline reports in an investigation? And then where are the judgment calls that they can make along the way? I applied all those facts to that regulatory and legal framework and then came up with these findings. There are 12 findings in my report. There's 5 of them that I'm going to just highlight that synthesizes a few of them. And these, I think, are the main takeaways I'd like to kick off, because many of you may not have had an opportunity to review the entirety of the report. Some of you may have only had a passing reference to it, but I believe that these are the most salient points to summarize and make you aware of. The first is that I found that there was no malfeasance or misconduct by Oswego County DSS employees at any time during any of their investigations. There are certainly judgment calls that were made that with the benefit of hindsight, turned out to be wrong. There was also several inadequacies throughout the investigation in terms of documentation, thoroughness of investigation, and general thoroughness and tidiness of what should be, if it was going to be a perfectly checklisted investigation according to the regulations that they are supposed to follow. but there was no instance, this was not a situation where something was reported to the hotline and DSS failed to respond. This is not an instance where DSS employees were making things up. To the contrary, there were 3 primary reports that were investigated. Multiple home visits were conducted on each occasion. Multiple interviews were conducted with the subject child. They were never denied access to the home. They were never denied access by the parents to medical authorizations or records or access to the subject child's providers. The caseworkers did what they were supposed to do in terms of going out and investigating. There are several deficiencies, which I will talk about with their investigation, which are also highlighted in OCFS's fatality report. But there was no misconduct. There was no malfeasance. There was no cover-up by DSS. The second really important point, and this is not a scapegoat by any means, but it is critical to understanding why things happen the way they did, because it touches every aspect of what happened to the subject child, is that this happened during the height of COVID. COVID impacted every single aspect of the subject child's life, the resources that he was receiving, medical care, medical access, CPS's ability to respond and effectively investigate, and then to be able to effectively corroborate and determine what was actually happening to the subject child. I'll just give a few examples of those things for you to understand what I'm saying. I'll back up. The second report, there were 3 primary reports. The first was in April of 2019. The second was in March of 2020. That's right when COVID starts. At that time, the subject child who had cerebral palsy and was wheelchair bound and could not provide for himself was receiving extensive treatment and care through the Mexico School District. It is astounding the level and amazing the level of care and diligence that he was provided by the providers at the Mexico School District. When COVID happened and he went home, that stopped, except for virtual care. You can't do physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, those sort of things very effectively through a computer screen. In addition, he was not being fed by trained providers, he was not being physically repositioned by trained providers, none of those things were actually happening. And so at the time that COVID happened, this wonderful quality of care that the subject child had been enjoying having cut off. At the same time, access to medical care is almost completely gone for several months, I think as everyone can recall from that period of time. And at that time, the family was changing medical providers and there was a delay in getting him to a medical provider. At the same time, elective procedures or non-priority procedures are really hard to get. At the same time, CPS is having an enormous increase in their caseload because there's all sorts of people who are now home and all sorts of tensions in the home life. And so CPS's caseload goes up while their personnel is going down. All because of COVID. These are all direct implications of COVID. And then there's smaller, more indirect things. It becomes harder to get medical records from hospitals because they're not staffed. They're dealing with COVID. They're not dealing with other issues. And so COVID really does touch on every aspect of these things, right down to the quality of the investigation. When you're meeting with someone, they're masked. Maybe they're outside, they're not inside the home. It's more difficult to arrange those types of interviews when they happen. Every single aspect of this matter, unfortunately, was directly impacted negatively by COVID, and that cannot be ignored. It's not a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it is sure a determinative factor, and unfortunately a negative one across the board for every single aspect of this matter. The third very important finding is that there's a combination of 2 things. The subject child, while extremely physically disabled, was not cognitively or intellectually impaired in any way. And at the time the third report was made, in March of 2021, was 17 years old. This is not an 8-year-old, this is not a 5-year-old, not even a 12-year-old. You have a 17-year-old who has no cognitive disability, no disability or impairment in being able to communicate and advocate for himself. Across the board, throughout each of these reports, the subject child effectively denied the allegations and supported his family. That's not something that's new to CPS in cases of founded abuse and neglect, and nor should it be. Children will cover up for their family, they'll cover for them. But nonetheless, when you have a 17-year-old saying the things that the subject child was saying, effectively defending his family, and being frustrated by the constant invasion of CPS into their home, that's going to weigh heavily on an investigator. And that's a really important factor to keep in mind when evaluating why CPS arrived at the decisions that they did. Related to that is that CPS was never denied access to the subject child. The mother was always there, made arrangements, was responsive to requests. They filled out the appropriate medical authorizations. And it's hard to jive those two things with what was allowed to have happened and what we know happened through the criminal trial. But at the same time, what CPS investigators are seeing is cooperative, engaged parents who are giving plausible answers, such as the swallow evaluation is being delayed because of COVID. That's a very plausible answer given the circumstances that things were in 2020. They were allowed to meet with the subject child inside and outside his home. They visited the subject child at the school before COVID shut down. They were never denied access. At the same time, they were present. It's not as if they were absent, that they were gone for months or for days at a time, leaving children to fend for themselves. The parents were present. Again, it's hard to square what was allowed to have happened inside that home. But at the time when an investigator is looking at it, you have actively and seemingly engaged parents who are vociferously opposed to CPS continuing to engage, including threatening legal action against the school for making these reports. And you have the subject child who's effectively defending the family. Those are all going to weigh extremely heavily on a CPS investigator when making a determination about not only how to credit the allegations that are made, but what types of services are necessary going forward, as well as what, if any, intervention is necessary going forward. The fourth factor that I wanted to highlight is that there were several deficiencies within CPS's handling of each of these cases that, while does not rise to the level of malfeasance or misconduct, were significant in my view. The most significant, in my view, of the deficiencies had to do with the safety assessments and risk assessments that were done by the investigators and that were not caught by supervisory review within CPS. Just as a brief summary, safety assessments are done at the beginning of each case when it's reported to CPS to investigate. It's supposed to be a time for CPS to engage and determine, is there anything immediate that CPS needs to do now to intervene to protect that child going forward. Then safety is then re-evaluated going forward. It can be as little as just offering a service to the family or engaging and asking about how this is going to be fixed if there's a risk factor, a safety issue, to having the child removed from the parent's custody until something can be figured out. There's a whole spectrum there of interventions that are available. The risk assessments are at the conclusion of the case, looking prospectively going forward, saying, knowing what we know from our investigation, what are the risk factors that this child faces given this environment, and should we be doing anything as an agency to mitigate those risk factors going forward? In my view, that there are several safety factors that were not identified or inconsistently identified throughout the investigations conducted by CPS, and likewise, several risk factors are not identified as part of those risk assessments. And in my view, that created two important problems. One is, it's a bit of a decision tree. And there's a system that CPS, when they fill out the forms and the safety risk assessments and they go through it, is that if they identify a safety risk factor, they then have to come up with a justification, or they have to address it. They have to come up with a plan to address that risk factor. It triggers in the mind of the investigator, how are you going to address that safety issue to make sure that the child is safe? Just as one example, there's a safety factor for someone who is medically vulnerable. If a child is medically vulnerable, inconsistently throughout the reports, The subject child was not identified as medically vulnerable despite his condition of cerebral palsy. And in textbook regulations has cerebral palsy as being a listed item as an example of something, a medical condition that would render a child medically vulnerable. That's just one example of a few others. Some of these are subjective, they're subjective. The judgment calls, that one is not. That one is clear, it was missed, and it should have been identified, and then the investigators should have then been able to address that in some form or fashion going forward. The other important factor that the safety assessments and risk factors plays is historical recording of that information for the future. If there is a follow-on investigation or a subsequent report involving the same child or someone in their family, the investigators are required to go back and look at that case history and see if there's any relevant information that's going to guide them going forward. And so if they're seeing a pattern of safety factors that still exist, such as medical vulnerability or risk factors that were previously raised, they need to address those. And it's going to trigger in the investigator's mind, is that something that we need to address now? Has it been resolved? Is it still an issue? If it's still an issue, how are we going to handle it now? Plus, it may shed some light on the credibility of the past investigation, no matter what the outcome was, based upon what those safety assessments were, as well as the risk factors. The final finding that I think is important, of the most important factors to consider, is that unfortunately my investigation demonstrated that the relationship between DSS and Mexico School District in particular is not in a good place. There's been a breakdown in trust between the school district and DSS based upon I think largely a mutual misunderstanding of what DSS can do, what their legal thresholds are, what their enforcement capability is in certain circumstances, and what information they can share. This is a real frustration by the part of the school district, what information DSS can share with them about an investigation when it's done, because it's very limited. If not, they really can't share much of anything. It has to come from the state central register in New York and in Albany. And so there's this frustration about not knowing how these cases are resolved by the school district, and a misunderstanding, I think, about how those cases are resolved, is that the reporters don't think anything's being done. DSS can't tell them it's being done, based upon the confidentiality requirements. And on the other hand, I think that DSS relies way too heavily on the amazing services that the school district is capable of providing for their students and the interventions that they do, and is leaning on them to provide those services to students when that may be fair to do in certain circumstances, but shouldn't be relied on the way that it is by DSS. There's more to it than that, but that relationship, unfortunately, is one that has been highlighted here by this circumstance and this fatality, this child fatality, and needs to be repaired. So those are the 5 distilled findings of the report. There's other findings. Again, there's 12. Some of these synthesize those down. I'm happy to there's a lot of detail to this that I can get into, and I'm happy to answer any questions to the extent that I'm able to going forward. You'll notice that I am using the terms subject child, subject mother, subject father. I'm not going to be using any names. If you ask me questions with specific names, I'm going to respond with subject child, subject mother. Do your best to answer the question or ask your questions. Don't worry about trying to use my nomenclature, which reasons why I have to use the way I'm doing what I'm doing. But with the permission of the legislature, I would like to open the floor for questions for however long you'd like to allow.
Legislator Rehab.
Scott, would you read your finding number 1?
Yes.
Page 21.
Yeah. So finding number 1 states the subject child was murdered. Subject mother and subject father are responsible for causing his death and are serving lengthy terms in prison. And I listed that as my first finding because I think that bears repeating. We're dealing with a criminal case involving a murder. And when assessing the responsibility of others, that bears highlighting about who caused this fatality.
Thank you. Legislator Gilson.
Yes, our caseworkers and supervisors are not medically trained. individuals. Was there a doctor's report that was, did you find that there had been a doctor's appointment within an appropriate time within this investigation?
Yes, so in September of 2020, the subject child saw his pediatrician for an annual physical. So September 2020, for context, is after the second report is made, before that second report is closed or any determination is made by CPS. During that annual physical, the well visit is what it's characterized, the physician did not identify any concerns, any medical issues that needed concern or needed attention. In addition, the subject mother had requested a swallow evaluation referral for her son. I use this term swallow evaluation for those of you that don't know what I'm referring to. Since the subject child had cerebral palsy, his providers had noticed that he had trouble swallowing, chewing and swallowing food as well as liquids. And they were concerned that he may aspirate or choke on his food, and also concerned about him being able to ingest sufficient nutrition in order to thrive and survive. So a swallow evaluation would determine what kind of medical intervention, if any, was necessary for him under those circumstances. The subject mother had requested this swallow evaluation made the request to the pediatrician to pursue the swallow evaluation. It didn't happen. Some sort of clerical error. It didn't happen until March of 2021. And even then, in March of 2021, it happened because the third report triggered the subject mother to call the pediatrician again, find out what happened with that referral for the swallow evaluation, and then the pediatrician's office only sent the subject mother a letter. There was no coordinated care trying to make an appointment with an appropriate provider to conduct the swallow evaluation. And so those things all happened, but the September 2020 physical certainly weighed heavily on the investigators' determinations, both in the May 2020 report, as well as later in the March 21 report as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Greco.
Yes, Mr. Osmond, your detailed investigation into this case, did you uncover any gross negligence on the part of any county agency?
No.
Legislator Steve.
I haven't had a chance to read the whole report, so I really don't have, I may have detailed questions later, and I'll get in touch with you at some point in time. But I'm very, skeptical of the report as it starts right now with what you're saying. The initial reports were that CPS and DSS were not allowed to see in the house or into the child on numerous occasions. And that's all I'll say for right now, because I just am very skeptical of the report. I'm sorry. Thank you. Good job doing what you did, but I just don't, the answers are not, I'm not saying yes to me.
Well, I don't hear a question there. I'll say that.
No, it wasn't a question, it was
Okay.
just a statement.
Thank you. Anyone else? Legislator Gilson.
So after your interviews at DSS and understanding the organization, the system, how it worked, as this progressed and supervisors were involved, was it your opinion that this should have ever risen to a point where the commissioner herself should have stepped in?
No, the nature of the reports that were coming in, and even the number of reports that were coming in, would not have come up to the commissioner's level at any time. And based upon the nature of the reports, there would have been no expectation that they would have until it became a fatality report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, thank you. What I would offer that this is a lot of information for all of us to digest. Now that we got the report, you all go home and read through it. And at some point, some other, if you have any other questions or whatever, we'll be in contact quite possibly through Legislative Gilson.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would make a motion for adjournment, sir.
Thank you.
Second.
Second. Thank you very much. Moving now to public comment period, Legislator House. Thank you. This is a public comment period for comments unrelated to the resolutions of the day. We will call on citizen Marie Schott. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. In response to Dave Turner's letter to the editor, as far as using the sky is falling analogy, Oswego County majority legislators have used this strategy for years. Whether it's COVID mandates, open debate, transparent government, or reducing the size of the bloated legislature. The fear factor has been the favorite mode of operation for years. So Turner's attempt to project that scheme on Frank isn't quite as clever as he may have thought. Dave is lucky to have enough time to watch children's movies, and maybe his job doesn't keep him busy. That's one of the problems with political appointees. They have time to write silly letters intended to do exactly what he is accusing Frank of. It would almost be amusing to take a page from your own playbook, Dave, if it didn't reek of whataboutism and insubordination. Maybe Dave should spend some time reading If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. He likes children's literature so much. One can only wonder what he really wants next. At any rate, your silly letter to the editor is nothing more than a shallow straw man fallacy, and a person in your position should leave the logical fallacy behind and employ some critical thinking and become a serious person. It is my opinion that subsidized housing has flooded us with undesirables and homeless. We need job creation, no more mixed-use housing. We are becoming a dumping ground for large cities, placing more pressure on law enforcement and DSS and draining the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, citizen Frank Castillo. Thank you, sir.
How come she said the timer up now? She said right before.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
We turned it off.
Good evening. Topic is dealing from the bottom of the deck. It's a common practice during election time for opponents to use whatever means possible to get elected. They bring up voting records, they bring up accomplishments. One thing that is considered off limits is any attack on your opponent's personal life, family, or private work. Well, you will hear how the last statement was violated. The date was May 8th. At 4:30 p.m., call on my cell phone from Julie Bell, Director of HR. The subject of the call was to inform me that because I had retired from the school district, I would have to resign my position at the county for one day and get reinstated or lose my state pension. She said if I reported to work the next day, that's what could possibly happen. Telling me I had to call the State Pension Integrity Bureau at 1-866-805-0990 immediately. I told her I was on the car to a lacrosse game. She again stated I had to call the state. During the conversation, I would have to call County Clerk Terry Wilbur for the procedure. I asked her to text me the numbers. She did, along with a link to find out information. After being on hold for a state retirement system for 25 minutes, I spoke to a rep from the Pension Integrity Bureau. He told me that the way he read the state law, I couldn't leave one and stay employed by the other. I made 4 phone calls. One to the state controller's office, one to the state senator, one to a past minority leader, and one to a personal friend. Now, I had retired April 30th. It was well known at the meetings that I was at that week that I was retiring April 30th. I did not get a call until 8 days later, with less than 12 hours to make a decision. Why? In less than 12 hours, I found out the true answer from the state controller's office legal team that controls state pensions, Mr. Scott Likoski, under RSSL 214A and 2 NYCRR 374-2. I won't read them to you. The gist of it is 212 is what they told me that I should go to. 212 states, right at the bottom, states that it is age-related and income-related. The age was 65. Salary was $35,000. That states that you can only make you can't make over $35,000. And it states that you have to be, if you're under 65, you can't do the same. I sent a text to the HR rep. I told her, I may look like a spring chicken, but I'm 76 years old. And I make a lot less than $35,000 a year as a legislator. Now, I found all this out in less than 24 hours of being told I had to resign for one day and get reinstated, which everyone in this room knows that would have never happened. Okay? Now, with all this information being known, we all know that no department head does anything without the express consent of either the county administrator or a higher authority, which in this case would be the county clerk. See that the person I was told to contact was Terry Wilbur. I don't hold Julie Bell accountable. I told her I hold Mr. Terry Wilbur and others thinking it would be a way to remove me from my position. It can't be done by election, but maybe we can deal from the bottom of the deck. We can trick Frank into resigning. It didn't work, and the egg is on the face of the county rep parties. There are legal ways to have an elected official removed from their job, violation of the public officers law, ethic charges, code of conduct. What happened here was total violation of the code of conduct, in that they tried to deal from the bottom of the deck and got caught. First call should have been to County Attorney Rich Mitchell, not to me, to find out what the rules say. At one point in time, I sent an email asking Julie Bell what procedure I had to do.
You may continue, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Wrap it
Now, I'm wrapping it up. It's just about done. And in that letter, she told me, well, we're checking further, but we have found out from Rich Mitchell that because of there's a clause that states that you're not in violation and you're okay. That call should have been made first or second, not a call on May 10th. You know, this is the worst case of political dirty dealings I have seen from this elected body. Now, this elected body, I don't think there's anybody in here that I haven't at some point in time backed up, seconded their motion in committees, discussed things with them, but to go after my family and put my wife through what you put her through that night, for 24 hours, worrying that she was going to lose the state pension that I was going to get, that is uncalled for and will not be forgotten and will not be forgiven. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. this time I'd like to call Chance Kennedy. Correct? Did I get the name right? Thank you. You had 5 minutes.
Good evening. The 2024 New York State Comptroller's Report shows Oswego County now has the dubious distinction of being ranked second for highest childhood poverty. Only the Bronx ranks highest than us out of the 62 counties in New York State. We, the people of Oswego County, are at fault for failing to hold you accountable for not addressing widespread poverty. In 2015, the county legislature created a poverty task force. At the February 2024 legislative meeting, another agency was announced to study poverty. Task forces without action do nothing. It looks good. It looks like you care, but in truth, you're just sticking band-aids on a hemorrhage. Poverty has increased and living conditions have worsened. People are hurting. Oswego County needs good-paying jobs. We need more child care services so parents can work. We need transportation services so people can get to work. We need access to medical services, especially mental health services. We need affordable, safe housing. We all need to do some collective soul searching and think about poverty on a human level. This includes you. Lack of real action says we do not care about our fellow man. Lack of action screams we support the rich getting richer while the poor get poorer. Think about how we look at the rest. Think about how we look to the rest of New York State with our second-place childhood poverty ranking. Our neighbors in Onondaga County are building a microchip plant and rebuilding Route 81 in Syracuse. Though these will bring lots of jobs to that county. We have no. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. As elected leaders, it is your responsibility to seek help from experts about breaking this cycle of poverty. Addressing poverty seems insurmountable, hopeless even. But it starts with caring about the people who voted for you. We need to act now and address the issue of poverty head-on. If we continue to do nothing, our fellow citizens' dire situation will deteriorate even more. We will attain the dubious distinction of being the #1 county in the state with the highest childhood poverty rate. Thank you.
Thank you. This time I would call Shauna Reddick forward. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you for starting this at 7. The calendar year for meetings, 9 are held at 2 p.m. and 4 at 7. December has meetings 2 and 7, which I included in the count. We can only guess why, but would love to hear your reasons. Understanding many of us here are aging, and gracefully at that, I'm sure it's tiring by nightfall. I'm 44 and I'm ready for bed by 8. It's easy to be set in our ways how we would want them. Why not add some fairness with the times? Everyone who would like to come, they all don't wish to speak, but to listen and know what's going on in the places they live. You're the county's leaders. Despite how you feel, aren't you supposed to sacrifice for your people? Thomas Christopher, a disaster waiting to happen, heard nothing on drug tests, and I'm sure a hair follicle sample would be even better. It's no secret he has a problem. For many different walks of life, many say the same thing about drug usage by him. It's referenced by many as Doc Hollywood. He should have never been rehired. He needs removed from any county positions for good. This incident, even the first time, should have ruined his career. In spite of what is good here and the wonderful people who live in the county, it's disheartening to see that Oswego County has become a joke, the land of Oz. Heidi Allen's case reached nationwide, Jordan Brooks' case reached the UK, and Dan Abrams' law and crime. Does anyone feel embarrassed? They should. Too many agencies making mistakes. People make mistakes and accidents happen. Too many things are considered to be an accident or a mistake. They're not when repeated. The court system is no better. Last week, Judge Van Stry and Dodd, who was the attorney for our son, thought it best to stay with the man who helped him run away on March 23 and didn't inform authorities that he had him in his home. So while all the resources could have been used for other purposes, a community of people who were out looking for our son, state police, the Oswego County Sheriff's Department, the K-9 unit, a barrage of news media posting throughout the day, and being investigated while I'm distraught and tear-filled and sick to my stomach, not knowing where Jason was. He had no respect for parental figures. He had no respect for authority. I emailed the Sheriff's Department once I found proof of what he had planned before and during the search. And you know what the office did? Absolutely nothing. The court is also aware that I had an expert witness, a psychologist with credentials that profiled him as a predator. No matter how much facts, proof, reliable, mandated reporters who can honestly vouch for us, how well we parent our children, our family keeps getting the middle finger from this county, way before I started anything publicly. We aren't the only ones. I'm not here to boast or drag this county down. It's doing it all on its own. I've been through a lot, and my experience with Oswego is the worst. It took everything from us. Family is everything. Not one shred of remorse has been shown to us or anyone else. Despite all the horrors, I have much to be thankful for, and I hope their countless victims can say the same thing. We tend to be blinded on our flaws, harm we cause others, or not seeing things from another's perspective. No one wants to be labeled or labeled anything that sounds dirty or being called corrupted. It's everywhere, and Oswego County has an overwhelming sickness looming over it. Corruption is described as deterioration of moral principles, loss of purity, and integrity. It is also referred as a form of dishonest behavior that has a big impact on everyone. It occurs when an entrusted entity abuses its power for their own benefit, and we have clearly seen that. We've seen it when y'all gave yourself raises. We've seen it when you let county's workers live off the system instead of helping them. A legislator who endangered his child, if I'm not mistaken, is still holding his position. Any other person would have not been so free of consequence. Dan Barney and the New Haven situation where his behaviors are extremely questionable, and the city's assessment, the one who does not have a New York state license. And that is just the tip of the iceberg, a very tiny piece. Every agency in this county seems to go hand in hand with each other. The dishonest behavior is having an impact on everyone, abusing power for their own benefit. If it's not corruption in this county, what would you call it?
All right, I'd like to thank you all again for coming. I again apologize for the lack of the air conditioning. We're back to super ties, hopefully next meeting, and again, have a nice day.